Hey everyone, welcome to Limitless Radiocast, episode 71. Hanging out with John Birdman Finn today. He's a Renzo Gracie Black Belt. We talk some old school BJJ training, new school, where it is now today and how things are going. Talk about all his training and the people that he has trained, get into some great conversation and some great stories. Chad and I have a lot of fun on this one. So we want you guys to throw those headphones on, turn that volume up, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. The show is being brought to you by Hoist IV Level Hydration. Everyone, you guys got to check this out. They're an amazing product. Chad and I drink this product, and I will tell you what, it has by far beat every sports drink I personally have ever tried. 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks. It's half the sugar of traditional. No high fructose corn syrup. No artificial preservatives, sweeteners, or dyes. It's BPA-free, kosher, made in the United States of America, and there are 6 delicious flavors. This stuff is amazing. You guys need to go out there and check it out. Limitless 10 at checkout for a discount. Check them out. Also, we want to thank our other sponsors, and we ask all you guys to go out there and thank them as well. Magic City Brewing Company, Red Tail Tattoo Company, Candry Law, M&H Beans, Coffee Supply, Gateway Dental Care, Thomas Webb of D. Hoff Realtors. Also, you guys need some fight gear, some gis, some stuff to get out there and get you on the mat? Well, you need to go out there and check out Lanky Fight Gear. Limitless 20 at checkout for a discount. Also, go out and check out the amazing products from Lashley Nutrition. They're amazing products. They can get you protein, creatine, anything you need. Plant-based, great products, great people. Check them out. Also, want to improve your jiu-jitsu? Go out and check out BJJ Foundation. Limitless 25 at checkout for a discount for all kinds of instructionals, DVDs, and great information from the amazing James Klingerman. Check them out. Hey everybody, so with the recent passing of Leandro Lo, we wanted to do a shout out to the amazing people over at BJJ Fanatics have started a donation page, and we're going to have that information in our show notes, and we're going to keep it in there for several weeks because we want people to go out there and support the family and what they're doing as a community for this young man who has tragically been taken from us. We always talk about, people that we care about and love and we have connections to. Well, Chad and I never had the opportunity to meet him or speak to him or have him on the show, but people in our community have been touched by the loss of this young man, and it is vital and important that we all come together for that kind of stuff and support people and support those out there that will miss this person. We will miss this person because I never got an opportunity to talk to him, to learn from him, to be educated, to hear his story. So we were asking all of you out there to go out to the link that's going to be in our show notes. BJJ Fanatics has set this up, and you can donate. Every little bit's going to help this family get things going, start a foundation, do anything you can. So without further ado, guys, go out there and check that out. We appreciate you guys so much. Now sit back and enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome to another amazing show. Hope all you guys out there are doing well. So we have Chad and I, have a great opportunity today. We're hanging out with the awesome and amazing John Birdman Finn, who is a BJJ Black Belt under Renzo Gracie. John is a seasoned competitor and runs his own academy in Brooklyn, New York. But I'm going to let John correct me on some of this stuff because that might not be true. So John, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it very much.
Anytime, man. Great to be here.
So you said you're in Florida now.
Yeah, in New York City when March 18th, 2020 happened, the pandemic started.
Sure.
The city shut down everybody. And they went extremely hard on gyms. And jiu-jitsu schools in particular, a lot of guys went under. My school closed. My last day teaching was March 18th, 2020. And we were never had the opportunity to reopen.
Oh, wow. Okay. Man, and that's been... So, and Danaher, and those guys, they did the same thing. That's why, didn't they close up too or leave? That's why they left New York because of that?
About a year before the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
In Puerto Rico. I don't know the exact reasons, but I know those guys that chatter was out there that they were planning,
kind of leaving already and making that adventure on their own. Okay.
Yeah. Cause New York City's a tough town to work in.
Sure.
And, not only the economics, but also the weather. I mean, it could be brutally hot in the summer and super cold Arctic in the winter.
How was that for like getting people in the gym when you were there, when you had your gym there?
It wasn't, I mean, we're talking population density. So,
okay.
The amount of people in a square mile I don't think you get that in many other places on the planet other than maybe some big Asian cities.
Sure. Right.
There's 11 million people in town. I think somewhere around 11 or 12 million people.
People are on top of one another.
I've been to New York one time. We went to the New York Open. It was in Harlem, right? And it was in
City College, 141st Street. Yeah.
Yep. So it was my first time there. And of course we had to go to the city the next day but whatever it was. But it was like late July, and Ohio gets hot and humid, but like in the city, it was so freaking hot because there's no air movement, right? I'd never, it was so hot.
All the asphalt and concrete and steel absorbs that heat and holds it.
Yeah. It was miserable.
All the mechanicals underneath the ground too.
Yeah.
Creating temperatures. So it's just.
If you want to cut weight, if you're cutting weight, just
walk around the city for a little bit.
You don't have to go to the desert and run out in the desert.
Well, last year I was in Brooklyn for the entire year, and my wife was in Florida working. So we were comparing temperatures each day, and it was hotter in New York than it was in Florida last summer.
Wow.
Man.
Wow.
And the humidity was worse too.
Yeah. It is. And it's weird how the humidity. So I just got back, thank you so much. We rescheduled this, everybody out there. Terry was stuck in Texas last week for work. So I was stuck because flights got canceled. So I couldn't get home, which was awful, but here nor there, I got home finally, eventually. And I've been to Texas before, but I was in the desert, really, really far west Texas.
Yeah.
And it was it was 105 degrees. We were doing some testing outside and stuff. And I was like, wow, this isn't bad because there was no humidity. It's all dry heat. So it was like, I was in a polo and jeans and, shoes and stuff and outside all day. And I'm like, I could see this being okay. Not that I want to do this all the time. Yeah. I'd rather have some water, some breeze and ocean, but it was better than, being in a super humid place. So I can see that for sure. Like being in New York, like that condensed heat, like on top of you. So that's pretty good. So how's jiu-jitsu treating you now, man?
I have been teaching remotely to some former students in Brooklyn and New York City. So I've been doing, stuff like Zoom stuff like this to some people for probably the past almost a year. I've been and when I go to New York, I teach at this one school. It's the BJJ 47 co-op in Crown Heights. Former students, great people. They're running a good program there. They kind of have a unique way where they all kind of chip in for a space.
Nice. That's actually really cool. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think it's called 47 BJJ Co-op. Bunch of really good students of mine. They take every once in a while they take a couple new people into the fold. And when I'm in town, I teach her like Tuesdays and maybe Saturdays. I'll go over. Great group of people, and I have fun. It's actually enjoyable, and they all notice a difference how I teach now versus how I taught when I had the academy.
Is it because of the stress? Like I say no stress. We all have stress, but the stress level is clearly different now.
It is. There's so much you have to think about when you're, you got to keep the lights on.
Sure. Yeah.
So a lot of thought that goes into it and a lot of things you need to look at on a daily basis. And for me, the big stress is if I have 20, 30 people in a class, in that class, if there's some knuckleheads in there, you got to keep a closer eye on them.
Sure.
Because they're like a blue belt who's trying to sneak a heel hook on a white belt, when I'm not looking, and you got to be like, no, you shouldn't be doing this, or,
sure.
Just like, what are you people doing? It's like,
right. Your knee's going to explode and he's not even going to know what's happening.
Yeah. He doesn't know what's happening. You don't know what you're doing.
Right.
It's like, would you jump in a plane and try to fly it? Yeah, I don't know.
Right. Not me. Not me. Let alone Chad's on me all the time. Like, don't now I'm, into jiu-jitsu a little bit here, for a little while now. So I know the difference of like not rolling with newer people because I'm older. I get banged up and stuff like that. And it's like, he's always like, don't roll with newer people. And then sometimes I do.
It's okay to,
and
yeah.
Then I
we gotta
regret
be,
it, but
yeah, it's okay to pick your training partners. Sometimes you go in, like, I don't know who told us. I don't know if it was Woods Manzi or somebody.
it was
told
Christian.
us, like,
He said
he'll go in and he knows the 5 people he's rolling with that night, and that's it. Or like whatever,
Yeah, I am super, super picky.
Yeah.
Something funny happened years ago. I was a brown belt at the time, and another Renzo Black Belt said, "Hey, I just opened my own place. Can you just come by and be an extra set of eyes and hands on the mats for me?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, no problem. It's close to home. You're a good guy. Let's do it." So I go there, and there was about a dozen people training, and we were doing just single leg. It was a no-gi day, so we're just doing double leg entries. Okay, so the one person's a scarecrow. He just stands there.
Yeah,
sure.
And the other person does that. So his name was Bill. The guy's name was definitely Bill, and I still know the guy. So it was Bill's first day. So Carl's like, "Let me put you up with John here. He'll help you out." So I'm standing there and I'm looking around, and the guy kicks me in the balls as hard as he can.
Oh,
it's not fun.
I fall down. I'm screaming. And the guy's like, dude, what's the matter? What's the matter? And I couldn't say anything. And one of the other students said, "I think he just got kicked in the balls." So he looks at this guy. He goes, "Did you kick him?" He's like, "I don't know, maybe." So finally get up, and he goes, "Well, this guy's experience, it's my first day. You said go. I didn't know it was going to happen. I thought he was going to attack me."
Oh, man.
So
he just had a complete panic.
Yeah, I thought he was fighting.
Yeah, the instructor said, "Okay, go ahead," meaning just
sure.
The drill.
Yeah,
Work the drill. Right.
The fight or flight kicked in. This guy went into complete panic mode and just drilled me. I wasn't even looking. I was
the
furthest thing in my mind from what might happen.
Clear indication why everyone out there, most everybody listening to this show, trains in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is why you need to train, because if you're in the street, you're just going to panic and fight or flight, and then you're probably
don't know what's going to. And then he didn't even know what happened afterwards. That's how your brain clicks in and does things that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Wow.
That's funny. Yeah. It's just like, what the heck?
So that's one of the main reasons I'm very careful of. Even who I will train with, not even roll live, just
drill. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what? Because I've had guys that scratch you, and Chad, we got to be careful with the beards. Everybody's
grabbing those beards. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I first opened my academy, there was a guy I've trained with forever, and I used to give him privates. And his fail-safe was doing him in trouble. He'd grab my beard.
Oh, jeez.
So this is years later. He's gotten his black belt. It's the grand opening of my school. I know he's coming into town, so I shaved the beard off. Because I knew he was going to want to roll.
That's awesome.
Knock on wood. I'm very fortunate. I'm not getting it pulled very, very often at all. But
if I ever come close, like I purposely try to get my hand like underneath it, like to the lapel, like out of respect, because I'm not.
The worst thing for us is collar grabs.
Yeah.
When people try to feed that collar, you usually get
a little bit, and that's sometimes worse. I'd rather you get a more than like a little bit. That little bit.
The whole thing is fine, but just a little 20 hairs is like
it's a little rough.
Still bueno.
Yeah. Pulling the little parts out. So.
Yeah.
Do you recall, John, when you started back in BJJ, like how difficult it was versus today?
I remember my first night.
Like remembering that, it was a fight, right? When you first started versus
this is my first night in jiu-jitsu. It was a Friday night at Renzo's. Me and my buddy go out there. It was a no-gi night, and I remember the technique we drilled. And when we got done drilling, I remember Renzo saying, "Don't go. Roll with my friend Matt Sarah."
Oh boy,
that's who I thought you were referring to.
And Matt was a brown belt, and he dislocated my shoulder with an omoplata.
Oh
man.
And I guess it was about a year or so ago. We were laughing. We were at the dinner, and me and Matt were talking about this. And I was like, "That doesn't sound like something I would do the next day." He's like, "Yeah, that might have happened like that."
That might have, yeah. I was going to say, when you were there starting, it was probably the who's who of jiu-jitsu, right?
I mean, New Zealand John Donaher was a blue belt when I started. Matt was a brown belt. How do we go? Gracie was a brown belt. Nick Serra was a purple belt. My good friend Jamie Cruz just got his purple belt.
Yeah.
Ricardo Almeida was a black belt.
Sean Williams was probably there, right?
He was a blue belt.
Blue belt, yeah.
So he was a great guy. He was there. Most of those guys, Joe D'Arcy, all those guys, they were all blue belts when I got there.
Yeah, amazing.
Which was good.
It's wild for me to hear it because I look at all those guys now, you, Chad here, and I'm just like, I can never see you guys being anything but black belt because I'm never going to get there.
I remember when I started training, the best promotion, I was most happiest was my blue belt.
Yeah.
Nothing, even the black belt doesn't compare to the emotion I had when I got my blue belt.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about a time when there were really not many, if any, black belts around.
Sure.
And a lot of, it was mostly blue belts, and blue belts would disappear. Usually shortly after somebody gets their blue belt, the blue flu, they're gone.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because the thought was like, if you get a blue belt, like at the time, like if you were a purple belt, it was like considered like world class. Like if you trained long enough, we got your purple belt, it was like a huge deal. And there weren't many. It was mostly just blue belts. And they would, drift in and out. So I was like, man, if I could just get a blue belt, I'd be pretty confident. I'd be pretty happy with that, because
sure.
You didn't see many higher belts around ever. Even you go to tournaments back then, brown belts and black belts competed in the same bracket.
Right.
Because there wasn't enough of each to go around. And even purple belt tournaments, I remember when I competed as a purple belt, there was 2 weight classes. It was 169 and under and 170,
That's crazy.
That was it. And a lot of times it got combined.
Yeah, it was one big, yeah.
Because there just wasn't enough people.
I used to weigh in fully dressed with my backpack on. I'm not going to break 170, with a backpack I want. It didn't matter.
Right.
It's wild, man. Like, I always ask this to a lot of our guests too. Is it kind of blow your mind to see jiu-jitsu where it is now versus when you started?
A little bit, yeah. I remember going to a tournament and we're like, wow, there's like 65 people here. That's insane. All the competitors, there were 65 of them.
Sure.
Right. Now that's a bracket, right? At some
I was going to say,
yeah.
It's wild. Yeah. And being on TV as much as, I say on TV for us that watch like Flow or stuff like that, like we have access to it more than ever before, obviously. Like you guys had a lot of the, old school, like either.
Well, I explained to my students, like when I started, Pencil had no website or phone number, and there was no sign outside the building. Okay. Now, I'm going to make a challenge. How do you get a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gi without the internet?
That's
you know what? That's a really good question that I've never asked. So how do you now? Like I'm thinking like
know someone that knows someone.
People would have a little gym or something, and they were under like guys like David Adiv was there, Renzo was there, and there's some other Brazilians scattered about, and they would bring gis in occasionally. But I remember it was like, so-and-so's going to Brazil. It's like, well, let me give them like $100 or whatever and have them grab me a gi and bring it back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then I was fortunate enough to travel to Brazil. And I remember, bringing back some gis for people and for myself, because that was how it was. Oh, so-and-so is going to Brazil. Oh, you got to get in early because you can't carry 20 gis back.
I was going to say, it's my duffel bag of gis. Sorry.
Yeah. And those gis weren't the gis of today either, right? They're a little lot different.
I remember I went to the Krugen's factory.
Oh, wow.
Which was the size of, it was tiny. It was a combination gi factory, jiu-jitsu school, and tattoo parlor.
Oh, nice.
All in one. And Viking is the guy. Viking ran that. And one woman sold all the gis.
Wow.
One woman. I remember I got 2 gis and 3 pair of pants for like $60 American.
Wow.
Or something like that. It was so cheap. It was like, okay, done.
Man, what a time. I mean, I'm fortunate, but I love to hear those stories, like just those old school stories, because that's the history of it. That's like the roots of how this all blossomed to become. Obviously, we talk about, UFC 1 and stuff like that, like changing the viewpoint of it. Like, oh, this stuff really works, or what is that? What's that guy doing? You know what I mean? But to hear you guys like talk about it, it's just like what you went through to even
it was harder, not
that's what I mean.
it was more difficult because no one understood what you were doing when you explain your lifestyle. No one understood.
Sure.
It didn't make any sense to anyone. I know good friends and family thought I was in a cult.
we kind of are.
I've been brainwashed.
Sort of. I say that jokingly, like, but we know, like, jiu-jitsu is like, we've always kind of joked, like, oh, it's kind of a cult, because still to this day, like, people are like,
yeah,
what do you do? I just had someone the other day. They're like, you still do that? Karate. I think they did say it wasn't even karate. They said something ninjutsu. They were like, do you still do ninjutsu?
Wow.
And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I kind of just turned my head and I was like, it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And they're like, oh yeah. That's it. And I was like, ninjutsu is like something you may see on TV. Like, I mean, people did it, but it's not really here. Like, this is not what anyone ever really did.
It's not a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. It's good. Which it reminds me, because Chad tells me all the time, he's like, oh yeah, people have said that before. Like, because they still don't, people outside of our world, when I say a cult and outside of our community, they don't understand what we do. They don't understand like what it is.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I'm always like, come to the mat, come to the gym. We'll show you. It'll be fun.
And now it's I mean, you could see aspects of jiu-jitsu on ESPN. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. People have access to it now who normally wouldn't. But then there was you couldn't say, hey, go on YouTube and look at it. Or, you know, this you couldn't. You could show them a still picture of somebody posing. It's like, well, but that doesn't really you know.
Hey, even now, like having the YouTube reel, or not reels on YouTube, but like Instagram or Facebook, like the reels, you have the chance to put your technique or to show your technique or how you would do it, which I love it, because I love seeing you guys succeed and having more eyes on what you're doing, and for the public to see and for people to understand it, or people that are in jiu-jitsu to kind of say, oh, that's a different flavor of how I would do that. That's really cool. You know what I mean? Like, I love that part of it for sure, which, you know, Chad and I have talked forever. Like, that's just something that you guys never thought you would have on the regular basis, you know?
It's funny. There's pre-black belt, I know of 6 photographs of me.
Wow.
No video. And I think 5 or 6 photographs.
Yeah.
Because there was no
there's
cell
just
phone.
Nothing. Yeah. No one was
somebody
taking
happened to be there with a camera and they snap a few pictures. I have, I think, 5 or 6 photos between white belt and brown belt.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That's wild. Did you get invited by someone? Did you get invited by like a friend to like take you to jiu-jitsu, or was it like, let's go try this out?
No, we were bike jumpers.
Oh, okay.
BMX bike jumpers. And I had a horrific crash in 1998.
Oh man.
Like, I flatlined. I mean, it was bad.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
Okay.
In a coma, I had my spleen, some of my intestines, part of my stomach, just gone.
Dude.
Broken ribs, major damage. So everybody I knew was like, we're done. You know, if that's the possible payout on this deal, we're no mas, no more. So me and my roommate at the time, I think I was 29 or 30. He said, well, what are we going to do now? We were talking. He's like, remember those UFC fights we saw, the Gracies? We should try to find a Gracie school. So he was getting a tattoo or something. He overheard somebody talking, and that's how we kind of found out about Renzo's school, which was this nondescript building on West 37th Street on the 5th floor above a methadone clinic.
Wow.
With no sign.
It was like a dark alley type thing. Like,
no, it was like a main street. It was next to like a raised papaya. But I remember going and you'd see like, look, that guy's got headgear on his bag. This must be the place. You know, people waiting outside.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's all junkies and jiu-jitsu guys waiting for, the door to get unlocked.
Right. What a combination.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, we'd be, and it's, you guys are familiar with Brazilian time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
So class was at 6, and Renzo got there any beat time between 6 and 7:30.
Man.
So you see that black GTI come around the corner, and the keys fly out the sunroof, and he'd look for parking, and somebody unlocked the door.
Man, my first introduction to Brazilian time was at tournaments in Columbus, Ohio, which is, a couple hours south of us. And Renzo Gracie ran them all, right?
Mhm.
And man, you'd be waiting in line for the doors open at 9 and they'd show up at 10:30. The tournament would get started. They'd break for lunch and just come back whenever, like it was nuts.
My man, what's the hurry?
Yeah. They're sitting on the side eating pizza. Everybody's like, oh, we want to compete. We did you remember the Arnold Classic was really big in Ohio?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I had a buddy that competed like at 11 o'clock at night because it just had run, breaks here and there and started late. It was nuts.
Do you remember the US Grappling Tournaments? Did they get out to the...
They did. That was early on. I never went to one, but I remember them being real popular.
They were great because if you didn't compete by 3 o'clock, you got your money back and you still got to compete.
Nice.
Oh,
So
wow.
Put pressure back on them, huh?
Yeah, it was a thing. If you didn't get into your first match by 3 o'clock, you got your full refund and you could still compete.
Wow. What an incentive, to run it, because that's both ways. Yeah.
These things were run like clockwork. These guys really, really did a good job. They did a good job of screening people as far as brackets.
Sure.
So they ran the beginners first and the advanced at the end. So if they saw you in a beginner thing, they'd pull you out and say, no, you're intermediate.
Oh, good.
Oh,
They bump you right up.
Yeah, no
They'd pull you out of
sandbagging.
your first roll.
Yeah, no sandbagging.
That's good.
Is that what you said,
Yeah.
Chad?
Yeah. I mean, that happened a lot.
I mean, I'm sure it
I'm
still
sure
happens.
it still does. Right.
Yeah, I remember going to one tournament and it was like the novice. And this guy was like a D1 runner up. And he's just slamming people on this. Like, this is insane,
Yeah.
Just taking people down, holding them, getting off, letting them up, taking them down. All you did.
Oh, man. Like,
That's
just
That's not jujitsu. Come on.
What do you get out of that?
Yeah. Nothing.
Seriously.
I mean, maybe for that person, it was a lot of ego driven stuff, right?
Yeah, that's all.
But it's so silly. So silly. You have to tell us. So the first time I heard your name, John, was from my instructor, James Klingerman. I think he's posted a picture.
Sure.
He was at your gym once. And then I told him I was going to, he's like, you should get him on the show. So how'd you meet James?
I met James in Maine at the Origin Camp.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I met him.
Such a good dude.
Yeah. Have you guys ever been there?
I've never been to the Origin Camp.
Not to the Origin Camp, no.
It's I have some neighbors here in Florida. They're on their way today.
Oh,
And
nice.
I think it starts on Sunday. They're going up to Boston for the day, and then they're driving up to Farmington, Maine. Great experience up there. I mean, I've met a lot of great people. So much fun. Great instructors.
I was going to ask you, have you got to ever teach at it or just attend it?
They asked me to just show a few things one day.
Sure.
I went up as a participant. I tried not to. I didn't want to, get involved and start telling people what to do.
Sure.
It was more of a vacation for me because we went up one year, 2019, I think. Like 20 of my students came up with me.
Oh, wow. Nice.
We had our own cabin and,
wow. That's cool.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a good bonding experience too. I mean, not that you don't get that with your students alone, but as Chad and I have talked before, some of the half of the fun that you ever have with your students and teammates is traveling to a tournament or, being around each other like that.
It was great because they got to see a different perspective than I would teach.
Sure.
And then we because they would go off on their own to their, like the blue belts here, purple belts here, it's everybody goes off on their own. And we kind of reflect on that at night. Like, hey, I saw this. I'm like, yeah, that'll incorporate with this. It was a good kind of expanding your thoughts on on jiu-jitsu, which was nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the more information you can get, I mean, from my coach, because Chad is my coach, listening to him all the time. He's like, as much information as you can learn in terms of the right way and good way and stuff like that, and then bringing it back and, not trying to tell someone how to do it, but it's like, hey, you can incorporate that. Like, those are the type of questions I've asked. It's like, oh, you can incorporate that by this from the chain, A, B, C, D type deal. Yeah.
And it's all, I always break down to body type and style.
Sure.
Like, I roll from the mindset of my abilities and my size. Okay. My top pressure is going to be way different than somebody who's like 220 pounds.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They have a whole different approach to it than I do. So me explaining my approach to a bigger guy may not make as much sense as a bigger guy explaining to the big guy how he does it.
Sure.
So there's always, guys are real fast, guys are real patient, guys are big, guys are small, guys use too much strength, guys use no strength. There's so much out there.
Yeah. And that's what makes jujitsu awesome because it can be,
it all works, right?
I mean, I was going to say it just all works.
Nothing's better or worse. It's just different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. For sure. When you reached the pinnacle black belt, did you say, all right, it's a whole new learning curve or a whole new, like, what was your thought on that? Like when you hit that point?
The day I got my black belt, I was angry. And it was kind of funny. I worked at the school and I ran a Saturday class. I taught 1 day a week and it was a 2-hour class. It was a competition class. So we did most of the live rolling was in the middle of the class.
Okay.
Not at the end. And I did different things. And it was a lot of students. So I took pride in being like, these guys, starts at 11, we're out at 1. And I wanted to be on time. And I wanted to make sure we got our rounds in, we got our cool down. I wanted to make sure everything was right. So I'm doing the class and it was like on schedule, going. And then I remember getting the black belt. I'm like, now everything's off. The timing is off. We're running late. We're running this. And then I was mad. I was like, I wish it would have, not that I was mad. I just wished it would have been a different night when I could have enjoyed it more.
Sure.
Because I was in that teaching mode where I was like, trying to help these guys get ready. And it was like, so maybe angry wasn't the right word. Maybe just,
you were interrupted I mean, your sequence was interrupted, which there are individuals, which I'm very much like my wife knows if she's like, hey, food's ready for you. And she won't even tell me like it's going to get cold because she knows like I'm in the middle of something. So she's just like, hey, food's ready when you want it. Because
if it was like a random Tuesday, I probably would have been happier when I didn't have anything to think about.
Nothing else to do,
but I'm like, so it was so super focused on this class that I didn't enjoy it as much as I could.
So when it absorbed in, then were you?
Oh yeah, I was pretty. It's an accomplishment. It's a big deal.
Oh, it is, man.
It's not like everybody says, "Oh, you start over," and I didn't find that to be true. I know a lot of guys who were kind of at that point. A lot of people were teaching before they got their black belt. And you see a lot of guys who would have their school and they'd be under somebody from another state. And when that guy comes by to do seminars, he promotes people, and the guy gets his button and he's already teaching full time because he has a school, only thing changes is, he's got a different belt. Now I was just purely training. I didn't have a school and I just kept training. I go to general classes.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. Just at Renzo's, and I do the warm up where there's the black belt privileges. You don't have to do the warm up. I always do the warm up because I want the other belts to see that.
Right.
Sure.
I'm not taking this lightly, and I think it's a disrespect to the instructor. That
sure.
I'm going to show up just for the class and the rolling, and I don't, really. I think. To me, that's how I would take it. Like I had some black belts in my school and they came and they did everything just like a student. If you're here, it doesn't matter if you're a white belt or a black belt on the mats. When I'm teaching, everybody was like, okay, this is what we all do. Some guys don't sit out and, that. Sure. So when I go and I just started training the other night, I was Renato Tavares, who's a 6th degree Carlson black belt. He's down here in Florida. So I took one of his classes for the first time and somebody said, one of the other guys, hey, you don't have to do the warm-up. Like, yeah, I do, If I'm taking his class, I have to do the warm-up. That's the right thing to do.
Sure. We just had one of his black belts on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Pete
Willem.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to screw his last name up.
Is he here from Florida? I don't think I've met him.
He's out of Oklahoma, right?
Okay. Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Trenton BJJ. BJJ fight.
Hanato's super great guy. Super great guy.
Yeah. He talked about him, being obviously you guys that have these guys who you've been promoted from black belt or had in your life, they're a huge impact for you. That, you know what I mean, in terms of like your jiu-jitsu journey and your life journey, because that's some of the stuff that they say to you and educate you or teach you or learn or just love you in general. You know what I mean? Let's have that brotherhood, the sisterhood of our community. You know, it pays a huge impact on it, which, you know, people outside, again, referring back earlier, like people outside of our community, they don't understand that. They're like, how could you care about someone so much that does this to you? And I'm like, you have no idea. Like I can't explain it to you until you come do it. You know?
Yeah. In a way, I to us, to outside people, jiu-jitsu is more accessible, but to us in it, it's not as accessible as it used to be. Meaning, when I first started training, Renzo taught every single class.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't there, Rodrigo or his brother Hyan would teach.
Oh, yeah, man.
So, I mean, that's what we had. Like the substitute was Rodrigo Gracie. Renzo, every night of the week. So, I mean, you won't have that again. And when I was in Brazil, Carlos Gracie Jr. was still on the mats at Gracie Barra, Spasha Vital. And it was an average class had like 20 some black belts, and the head instructor I think at the time was Marcio Peitosha.
Oh man.
So I mean that's who you had. Was Marcio was teaching and Carlinhos was walking around with him helping people.
Right.
You know, I remember taking privates from Marcio and from Nino Schembri.
Oh,
you know,
dude.
Chad's like, wait, yeah. How long were you in Brazil,
very
John?
First night, I remember Luca Atala picked me up at the airport, and he just dropped me off at the academy, and he goes, "I'll be back for you. I just got to, work out where we're going to put you," because I was staying down there. So I walked up to the academy. There was nobody there. I was kind of sitting down, and at Espacio Vital, it's the top floor, I think the fourth floor of this gym, like a wellness center. And it's just got like a corrugated tin roof and no real windows. So it's kind of semi-open air.
Sure.
And it was canvas over hay was the mats.
Jeez.
And Higan Machado walks up the stairs. And
Amazing.
He's walking around. He goes, "You want to do some drilling?" I'm like, "Sure." I'm in my shorts and a t-shirt, I'll drill with you.
Amazing, dude. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that can't happen again. Not that it won't happen again. I don't think it can.
I don't think so. Yeah. I mean,
because
all
the guys who were there at Espacio Vital have kind of scattered, all those guys who was there, Stambowski, Mauricio Gomes, Nelson Montoya, all the guys who were there are kind of all in different places right now.
Yeah.
They were right there all together in one night. And now they're kind of scattered about. So you can't have that again where it's like a super seminar.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like a super seminar. Like,
and if that happens, you're going to pay for it. Like if they organize something like that, it's going to be something you got to, really pay for. So, man, those names, man, I started jiu-jitsu in 2004. So those names you're listing, man, those were the guys, Nino Schembri, and, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Is there a lot of like video stuff out there of those guys now because that's available in terms of technology?
There is. I mean, I think Instagram, YouTube, you can find these guys doing bits and pieces, and they're like, just a wealth of knowledge. I mean, they know so much. I mean, there's a lot of jiu-jitsu that I think is forgotten.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But these guys still have it. And I think to train with them is like, or to pay attention to them is very important. I think a lot of people are just focused on that flavor of the month.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
very true.
Forget, like, fundamentals win fights. Bottom line,
Yeah.
That's what
stuff that's flashier, it's good till we come up with a counter to it. Once the counter comes up and it's like a single use kind of thing, it comes and goes.
Yeah.
But fundamentals are always there.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Chad.
I would just say I think the history of not just jiu-jitsu, but those guys, like you said, those guys are kind of forgotten about. Like if I had one of my classes that I'm like, raise your hand if you know who Teddy is. I might have like 4 people, maybe, right, that know who he is. But I think it's crucial. I told Terry from day one, what instructionals should you watch? That's what he was. I think you asked me, Terry, or what videos. It's like,
if there are any kind of videos or anything.
Yeah, which is good. Watch whatever, but watch matches. I always liked watching matches at first to kind of start identifying things and learn who these guys were.
Yeah, like Andre Galvao, everybody knows his name, but
For sure.
Teddy, who he's under, the TT team. You should know those guys because that's where he learned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's where how many super teams branched from that, right? With Brasa and Alliance, and like everything came from that.
Yeah, like you look at the Holes black belts, Jacare Cavalcante, Gomes, Stambowski,
Man,
the 5 or 6, I think it was 5 guys, 5 belts or 6 belts.
Mm-hmm.
And my good Alvaro Romano would have been 6.
Man,
that's wild. It's like it is. And fortunately, I asked those questions. And being an older person when I started, in my 40s, I kind of approached it differently than maybe some others would, or maybe younger gentlemen do, or women. But I would ask that question to Chad, and then I watched matches because I wanted to know about these. And then we started the podcast, and then I asked these kind of questions too, like about those people, because I love to be educated. I want to hear about these people. And I think it's important for everyone out there that does it, that the roots of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came from these guys, whether they branched out, whatever happened, where they're at now, where their academies are, their names, whatever. It really all started down from this, what you're talking about, John.
It started from guys who trained in garages with mats.
Yeah.
In the US, that's really the roots of it. Way back when it was like, not that it was outlaw, but it was a little more underground.
Sure,
for sure.
And there was different crews. There was like the Long Island crew, which was Matt and Nick Serra. If you trained 3 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the guys who got good had mats in their houses, and they drilled on the off days.
Gotcha.
All the time. Sure.
That's how the guys got good. If there would be people who would come. I remember on Saturdays there'd be a van from Albany, New York, and a van from Baltimore would come to New York City with like 8 guys in it to train. These gyms would come in. They didn't have a black belt instructor, so they'd just come to Hensel's on Saturdays. And then they would go back and they would drill all week. If you had mats in your house or someone's house or garage, we had mats in our basement. I was Jamie Cruz was my roommate.
Oh wow!
So we bought these mats from a guy at a karate school. Just there were zebras, like are used now. And we just had a pretty big spot in the basement, and he would, kick the crap out of me all day. Basically.
Just train. And the truth of it, and the fact of the matter is, when people are like, how do I get better at this? It's like, you can read all you want, but at the end of the day, unless you're not getting on the mats, it's not going to happen. You got to have it. I've just talked about this over the last several weeks, because I've had a low point in my training over the last several weeks where, some things happened. I was away from the mat, went on a business trip, and I felt it, like just being away. And I was like, man, I just felt like I was in a groove. Everything was clicking. I'm there several days a week. Awesome. And then now and this week was good because I was there. I've been there every day, and I started to feel it by the end of the week. I was like, all right, now things are starting to click again. And it's crazy to think that that's what happens. Now, granted, I'm only 2.5 years into my journey, but that obviously gets better, I'm sure, when you're away from the mat and you can be able to step back on and be able to pick back up stuff, but being young in your journey, it's so difficult to have that time away. Like when you come back and you're like, I'm lost. Like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
I remember not trying to never miss a class. Because when you miss a class, you come back and somebody catches you with something, you don't know what it is.
Right.
And it's like, and Hens will be like, you should have been here last night.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm pummeled now.
So you couldn't, no matter what, you just couldn't, you would try not to miss a class, and I remember how everything in my life, the first probably 4 years, really revolved around training, where I worked, and kind of how I lived.
Sure.
Was like, I remember switching to work overnights where I'd go to work at midnight. Because when you're starting off, your mind just doesn't turn off.
Oh, yeah.
After class.
Yeah.
So I'd be awake all night thinking about this and just be exhausted at work. And then I'd be tired to go to training. It's like, I can't do it. So I would train and then go to work.
Wow.
And gears would spin on the boss's dime, not mine.
Right.
And then I'd go home and I'd sleep and then I'd go back to train. And it was like an easy, it was kind of way worse as like a social life.
Sure.
That's when people thought I was in the cult. Like, didn't see me for like a year more, And suddenly I had a shaved head, and I was just living in a shittier part of the neighborhood because I didn't have the different job was different pace, and everything had to change.
Sure.
So, and there's no dating, there's no girl chasing involved in this. I mean, you couldn't.
It was all jiu-jitsu all the time and work.
It kind of was.
That was it.
Yeah, because no one else would put up with it. It's like, I was just single focus. I'm like, we found each other, me and jiu-jitsu, and we're going to stick together for a while. This is
for sure.
The only way I see it where I could dedicate the time to it and, kind of stay sane in the same process.
And the parallels with it, like when people are like go to college and get your doctorate degree, there's truth to this. There's no difference because you have to be like that with jiu-jitsu if you want to be good at it or be, competent at it. The best way I can say it, efficient. You have to be in it, and it takes that long to get a doctorate degree if you go to college. So it's no daggone difference.
I've talked to some people about this in and out of jiu-jitsu about the time that we put in, and how when I was a purple belt, I would help out anybody who had a school or a class, and they asked me to help out. I'd be the uki, or I would do whatever, because it was more information and information from a different perspective. If you're okay, I'm going to help these white belts with their armbar in the guard, and I'm going to catch things. So we're going through all this education, like you said, and we get to the point as black belts, we can go anywhere in the world and teach jiu-jitsu, right? Mm-hmm. If you're a doctor, can you go anywhere in the world and practice medicine?
Nope.
You can't.
If you're a lawyer, can you go anywhere in the world and practice law?
No.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So this is the one.
That's actually, that's a great point, man. Like I've never
good example.
About it. That's a very good example.
People would say, oh, the time you put in, you could have been, an MBA or been a lawyer. It's like, yeah, but I could be that here. Mm-hmm. I can't go anywhere else with that. I'm confined to these borders.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With this, I can go anywhere, and it's just I just need one person in that room to speak English.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you pay it forward. I mean, that's like the pay it forward mentality. Obviously, I've never met a person in jiu-jitsu community that hasn't been like willing to help or pay it forward or come on the show. You know what I mean? Like this, like just having a great conversation, making a new friend. You know what I mean? It's like, and not that doesn't happen in, doctor, lawyers or college wise to think about it. But I go like, you're right, John, you're spot on. Like I can't take that information and go teach somebody else and you can talk about it, but you're not going to get anything from it versus this. It's like, I can talk about it and learn, and you can teach me something. And you want to, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of our community. That's really what we want. We want people to be successful at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu so we can keep that going, It's
and awesome. For me is I want to see it spread the correct way.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
There's nothing I see that's worse is like, some knucklehead in somewhere in a basement,
right.
Just showing like tremendous hack moves.
Showing a guy how to do something to take a gun away from him or something.
Yeah, you just take your form and just jam it into his throat.
The McDojo stuff that, they put. I love those guys on Instagram that post and call all those guys out, which is really funny to me. But
YouTube top team, it's anybody is an expert now.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy.
I had students like send me links like, hey, do you think this will work? I'm like, it's not jujitsu. It's not, I don't catch wrestling. I don't know what the guy's doing, I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
Sure,
that's
right.
crazy. At least I think you're starting to, you haven't seen it for a while where you'll see a YouTube video of somebody calling out a fake black belt, right? Seems like that's starting to happen less, or they're just being more careful. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember I saw a couple that were like pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And I've even seen some guys in the city that were like, I don't know, questionable.
Yeah.
There was a guy a couple of years back, and I know a guy who kind of scammed the black belt from somebody,
Yeah, it's we had a guy locally. It was pre-pandemic, I think. That was around this area that I saw a video of him wearing a black belt with a red bar. Obviously, we know what that is, right? Or what that represents to us. And I kind of questioned it, and he finally took the video down. But haven't seen it for a while.
It blows my mind that, and we just live in an egotistical world, men especially. Like, what point in your life are you like, yeah, I'm gonna pretend to be a black belt in this particular martial art?
Yeah, this is the one you pick.
Right. It's
of
like,
all of them.
You pick the hardest one that is the most unforgiving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the mats don't lie.
I got brought into this school. This is years ago. I think I was a purple belt at the time. And it was a Taekwondo school that was doing a demonstration, and they were incorporating some version of grappling with their Taekwondo. Might have been a brown belt. I don't know. It was in the 06s, 07, somewhere in there. So the instructor comes out, and he was Taekwondo black belt, but I think he was a white or a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. So he comes out with a jiu-jitsu gi and a black belt with the red tab on it. Now, he's got the right to wear a black belt in his school because he's at, but to me, he came out with that. So the scenario was, there was me and another guy. The other guy had a rubber gun. I had the rubber knife, and he was showing the disarming. So when it came to my thing, I just ran in and shot a double on him.
Took him down to the mat.
I took him down. I didn't even use the knife. And then I mounted him and took his back. And I just threw the knife to the side and just said,
that's amazing.
That's kind of your punishment for
wearing that.
Yeah.
It was a little deceptive, I thought,
Absolutely.
You're not a jiu-jitsu black belt. If you're a jiu-jitsu black belt, then fine, we're going to grapple.
We're
gonna roll.
Sure.
For sure.
Forget about the rubber knife. That's not happening.
Yeah.
And it's sad that people are getting exposed to that kind of stuff, even to this day, like you're referring to, Chad. And it's sad that that's still happening, maybe not as bad as where they're kind of saying more secret, but they're selling that in academies, gyms, schools, what have you. Mm-hmm. Like you were saying, John, like you have these knuckleheads on YouTube doing stuff or whatever, and you just go, or on Instagram and whatnot, social media in general. And it's just like, what is happening here? Like, thank God, like, I can watch it now, or even if my kids are like, that's not right, is it? And I go, no, sorry. Like that would
and
never work.
The sad part about that, it's like an infection. It spreads. Somebody sees that and says, oh, that's how it's done.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they're going to, okay, that's how I should be doing it. I was wrong. I was doing it this way, but this guy, he's on YouTube. He must know what he's talking about, right?
Yeah.
Sure, right.
And that's the good and bad with YouTube, social media, whatever, is anybody can put anything out there.
Yeah.
Right. You can upload whatever you want.
There's no credentials.
None.
There's no disclaimer. There's no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So got to weed through all the bad stuff too.
Weed through the weakness. And the badness.
I tell my students, I'm like, you know what? When it comes to the internet, stick to porn. Nothing else. There's nothing. There's nothing on there that can help you, because you can't be like when I see these like online academies and stuff like that. You can't be corrected by a pre-recorded tape.
Right. Right.
They can't tell you your weight's not right, your hands in the wrong place, your hips are out of whack. They can't. A pre-recorded thing can't tell you that.
Sure.
Right.
And those are the questions that I ask 99% of the time when we're in class, when Chad does a training, obviously we're training, does a technique or whatever. Those are the type of things I'm asking. Like,
why is your hand there?
Yeah. Why is your hand right there? Where's my weight supposed to be, or here and there? And thank God I have a great academy, and Chad's an amazing coach that runs our
Now,
academy.
you guys are in Indiana, right?
We're in Ohio. We're in Ohio.
Ohio, okay.
Yeah.
Because I might be going to Indiana soon.
That's where Klingerman is.
That's where Klingerman's
he's in
at.
Indiana.
Now, where in Ohio are you?
Canton, Ohio. So Stark County area. If you know where the Pro Football Hall of Fame is, or if you look up, that's where we're at. We're right up the street from there. And East Coast Martial Arts is the gym that.
Well, if we drive from Brooklyn to Indiana, we might pass through there.
You might, yeah.
We could probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to stop in and see you guys.
I was gonna say, stop and
absolutely.
Hey, I wanted to ask you earlier. You used to, so you did BMXing. Did you race or just jump? Or
I raced when I was a kid.
Nice.
From like 75, 76.
Nice.
I started, that's when like the heyday was. And then we started dirt jumping in probably the early 90s.
Yep. That's what got me into it. So I raced for a while here. I raced in Ohio. I raced BMX bikes for a while, and then I went to mountain bike downhill racing.
Okay, great.
So it was just, when you mentioned earlier, I was like, yeah, I remember we would get up at the crack of dawn, man, and leave and not come home until it was dark. No one knew where we were, but we were off, building tracks in woods. And then we started racing. We had one friend that raced, and he was like, you guys should come race. And then, so we just started doing it, it was like awesome. So I miss those days, man.
BMX bike.
I rode a Haro is what I rode.
Yeah, I think I have a S&M Holmes.
Oh, nice.
And I have a Cannondale Chase, which is a jump bike.
So that's what I raced downhill, was a Cannondale. And now I have a regular mountain bike Cannondale. And my wife has a Cannondale because she was like,
Cannondale came out with they did the Eddie Van Halen paint scheme on it.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And they got a cease and desist after 200 units.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And I have one of those.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Cool.
So they're hard to come by these days, but yeah, I still have mine.
Nice. Do you get to ride like often now, like as much as you can? Oh, no. Just
since the crash, I bought the bike because it was so cool.
Sure.
And I rode it a little bit. I was riding it back and forth to the gym for a while,
sure.
in Brooklyn, and then I'll keep it. But yeah, on a bike, I'm either all the way on the gas or all the way on the brake. I can't just go out and have fun. I have to, I'll see a curb. I'm like, okay, I'll start jumping the curb, or I'll do this. It's
in your mentality, right? It doesn't, because
I can't just kind of leisurely ride up and down the street. No, I'm riding wheelies. I'm 13.
Right.
So I'm riding wheelies. I'm skidding. I'm trying to jump things.
I feel you. We put gravel tires on. I switched my Cannondale. I'll put gravel tires on. Got my wife's bike. Gravel tires are on it. We go riding, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, you're like 10 years old. Like, why are you over there trying to like jump over that?" And I'm like, it's just like kind of ingrained in me. Like, I just see it and go, "Oh, I wonder if I can do that still," which I can't. Like, I can't do it at all. And I'm like, wow, I can't even bunny hop anymore. Like, I used to be able to bunny hop 4 feet in the air, no problem, like with just a bike. And now it's like, you can't do that, you old dummy.
You just gotta get back. See, if you had never stopped, you could still do it.
Right, exactly. That's the thing. It's like being away from the mat. You think you can just start doing it again, and then you're like, I can't do this anymore.
That's why I don't ever take breaks, because I know I'm not too far from being an old guy, and I don't want to have to come back to this. I want to
keep the flow, right?
Going forever. So I want to be rolling, 70s and 80s. I still want to be on the mats.
Sure. Yeah, and you should be. I mean, we see a ton of people out there now, obviously with social media and stuff like that. And we just had a guest on that, Kenny Kim, that he's going around and doing the mat mate stuff, and he just had the 73-year-old woman that just got her blue belt, so she's training, and which is awesome, and it's like, I want to see people like that have the opportunity to be able to get on the mats and stay that. I want to do that. I want to be super old. Like, I want to not ever walk off the mat with we're a couple ages in difference. I'm younger than he is, so by a few years, but I want that. I want to be able to walk on those mats when I'm a really old dude. And
I mean, it's a fun place to be. I mean, you don't, I don't know. I don't think I ever want to be away from it. the camaraderie, the
Sure.
The hang, afterwards,
Yeah.
back to the wall on the mat, sweating, talking to people. That's part of it. Not only the rolling, but the preamble and the post.
Yeah. Which is it's vital. It seems vital for you to have that kind of stuff too. Like Chad, you'd agree to that. Like we always are.
100%. Yeah. I mean, we're always like, I'll get a text from my girlfriend, like, where are you at? Are you coming home? Like, you just get stuck talking to people. And we talked about it a couple times on the podcast about, I'll be 47 this year. Just being around the younger people, right? I think keeps us in that mindset. Like, I don't, people, what's it feel like to be 40, whatever. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think we're the typical people of that age group.
Yeah. I'm 55.
Yeah. We're doing stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you don't look 55, John. You look great. I wouldn't have known that if you wouldn't have told me.
No.
I don't ever look up like her.
Closer to 60
age.
than I am 50. So that's
you're just in the middle, man.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, you're not old until you're dead. So
age is just a number. I mean, if you didn't know your age, how old would you think you are?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I would put myself younger because of my mentality and how I act. And
you're still thinking. I know you're not, maybe not doing, but you're still thinking about a BMX bike and what you can do.
Yeah, exactly. right. Right. I do.
Yeah.
I see my kids do stuff and I'm like, I want to do that too. Like that looks like fun.
Alvaro Romano was in Brooklyn. We just did a seminar and we were walking from my gym to a Whole Foods to grab lunch. They had a rooftop.
Oh, nice.
So we're walking down the street in Brooklyn, 3rd Avenue. And the walk, don't walk signs, they light up.
Yes.
Well, between the gym and Whole Foods, I took black tape and I made the don't walk into metal fingers. I just taped over that. So the whole way, that's all you'd see on wherever I walk. I would do that.
Oh man.
And one of my students is like, he goes, some nitwit, like 14-year-old taped all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, that was me. But that's the stuff I think about when I would be walking through town. I'd be, I got to do this. I got to do that. And
sure.
I'm still forever, 15, 16 years old in my head. I just think about you see, like you said, you see a curb, you want to jump it, and you see, it's a mound of dirt somebody left.
That's one thing I got from jiu-jitsu when I started. That I guess I never really have talked about until now that you're saying it in that way, John, is I feel younger. I feel more like myself in terms of that. Like I can be free like that. Like it's like, oh, well, this is acceptable in in the gym or in the jiu-jitsu community. Like it's okay. Like I can feel young, even though I can make smart decisions, which I probably wouldn't have made when I was younger, but I make the smart decisions, but I can still do the young things or mentally enjoy that kind of stuff and live my best life. Like before that, I don't know that I ever, I don't want to say I didn't live my best life, but now it's kind of like, I don't feel that pressure maybe so much. I'm kind of like I have tattoos now that I didn't have before. I'm an engineer by trade. So I'm a desk jockey, man. I'm like, I got showstoppers or job stoppers now on my hands, as they say, or whatever, so, it's kind of like jiu-jitsu does that for you, which I don't think people really realize. Like it keeps you young. Cause like what Chad alluded to, you're around young people and, I'm there too.
I remember saying to my wife, it was like, for me, it kind of coincided with when I opened my academy. And I'm like, this is like the pilgrims burning their ships. They have to make it because they can't go home now. They can't go anymore.
Right. There's no going back.
I have to make this work because I'll never get another job again.
Sure.
Good
so
motivation.
I have to make this work.
Yeah, it is good motivation, man, for sure.
Yeah.
That's good. Very good. Well, we kept you an hour of your life, John, that you're never going to get back.
This has been fun. It's been great.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you tell everyone how to find anything you want them to find? You, Instagram, social media, anything you want. Sponsors, anything. Like, hey.
Well, I'm a big fan of the Origin guys and what they do with the American-made products.
Right on.
Whether it be supplements or clothing. When I had my academy, our club gi was an Origin.
Nice.
Okay, so we sold gis that were $300 for the club gi. Student gi, and everybody told me that won't work. No one's going to buy them. So we had all the custom artwork done by Mr. Ewok One, a really famous graffiti artist, dear friend of mine. and a student. He did all the artwork, and every capsule we did sold out.
Wow.
That's just a thing to say, like, hey, if you do it right, you know, I don't think for jiu-jitsu guys, the cost is a big thing for a quality product that's interesting.
Yes.
You know, everybody's looking for the cheaper this or that, or the, you know, the Pakistani made stuff. But Origin makes such a great product, whether it's rash guards, skis, whatever, that I only use them. And don't be scared off by the price, because it's quality. If you had a desk job and you needed suits, how much would you pay for a suit?
Exactly.
You know, if you want a nice suit, you'd spend a lot of money. If you want nice shoes for the suit, you'd spend a lot of money.
Yeah. So, and you're right, John. Jiu-jitsu people will buy stuff. They want to rep. They want to rep their team and the brand or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll buy it.
And that's part of the brotherhood, the family is, okay, we're a gang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are. Like we're in it together.
You know, and
you know that, that's huge.
So the American made product and what they do and the message they're putting out, I 100% agree with Pete and Brian, Jocko. All those guys are doing such a great job with that. And also, I'm a certified instructor in Ginnastica Natural under Alvaro Romano.
Oh, nice.
And you should have people look into that. I mean, it's a mobility and movement kind of theory.
Sure.
And I just think when I do Ginnastica, whether it's from before I'm on the beach or here or on the mats, it's literally like training jiu-jitsu without a partner.
Okay.
So it's on those days you can't, or it's always been, I met Alvaro in 2000 in New York City at Hensel's. He taught a class, and I've just been a fan of his and worked with him since then on this. And it works. I mean, YouTube, look at Alvaro and what he's doing. He's 65 now. Look at what he can do physically. And it'll just blow your mind. His jiu-jitsu, I mean, he's got pressure. I mean, the guy feels like he's carved out of wood. I mean, he's in great shape. And that's what we need as we get older.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
Especially even people who aren't training jiu-jitsu. I think with the elderly now, the worst thing now is when they fall down.
Yeah.
You know, somebody breaks a hip or something,
and stuff.
They can't come back from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you work on your core and you work on your balance, you have a better time, and you have better jiu-jitsu. You have a better time navigating stairs and whatnot. I just think as we get older, it's such a good thing. So if there's two things I would push for people out there is doing the Ginnastica, one, to the fitness level you need for jiu-jitsu. It's better than lifting weights or running or that. I mean, all that other stuff is good, but this is jiu-jitsu specific.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there's a point in your life where putting down the plates and the weights is probably smart and going to more body work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that more now in my 40s. It's like, okay, I don't need to be going to the gym and pumping all this iron. I need to be doing more of what you're speaking of, John, like, you know, doing body work and push-ups. And Chad and I, you know, we kind of we have a little group that we do this all the time where we do, you know, pull-ups and push-ups and stuff like that versus, you know, doing the plates and the weights and all that kind of stuff, and this stuff that you're talking about is becoming more prevalent in today's society because of what you're speaking of. Like, you can move more when you're older and you can balance yourself more and make the right decisions in your body. It's just not eating wrong, eating smart. It's also taking care of yourself in the right way.
And you have more available to you to keep your mind active with your body.
Sure.
You know, I do a lot of paddle boarding, surfing, stuff like that. You know, I want to do that when I'm 60s and 70s still.
Yeah.
But I need you know, my own equipment, my body to work with that.
To cooperate.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly. To cooperate. And there's other things too. Anything, you know, if you want to participate in things as you get older, you got to have a body that's going to work, especially bodies that have been damaged like ours. You know, we damage our bodies. You know, I remember reading years ago that a hard night of training was equivalent to a car crash.
I've heard that.
You know,
you're the one who told me it, Chad. Like,
it might have been
the first time I ever heard of it. I was like,
I
mean, I get it now.
Like, I mean, and it's the strange thing is that we get used to it.
Right. It's not a big deal. You know, like we walk away. Right.
Just another Tuesday night.
Right. Come back tomorrow. Do it again.
Yeah.
And then other people were like, "You're crazy." It's like, well,
Yeah.
we are little. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. Every person that trains in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has a little bit of crazy in them.
A little bit of crazy is good.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. So,
Absolutely.
very good. Awesome, man.
Cool.
You got any social media you want me to put out there?
Birdman BJJ on Instagram. I don't put a lot up there, but
Cool.
there's history on there. There might be some videos. Who knows? Maybe I'll start putting more stuff up now. I just kind of haven't been up there in a while. But yeah, check it out. There's some stuff on there.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Old school. There's some old school pictures on there from when I was in Brazil and some other stuff. I think probably some old school New York City Renzo stuff might be up there.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's important for people to see that. I mean, people that listen to our show always, like I said earlier, like Chad and I set out to, kind of do a throwback to people that started all this and did all this.
Yeah, it's a very kind of frontier environment back then. So it's good for people to know. And also to take advantage of it now. It's so accessible.
Right.
Yeah.
Easy to get to. Train as much as you can, because next year, that instructor or that person you're training with might not be there.
Right. 100%.
Just understand that these are the good old days you're in right now. Don't look back and say, why that guy was at the gym, who was really pushing me, I should have trained more with him. Recognize that now. Do it now.
Yeah.
Don't wait till it's too late and reminisce.
That's a great point. This is years ago. We had a black belt wander into our gym. I was a blue belt and teaching classes, and this guy came. His name was Charles Allen, and I got my purple belt and brown belt from him. But at that time, I had a couple people tell me, like, he might not be here for long. You don't know what his plan is. He was married with a family. Take advantage of him while he's here. And I didn't take enough. And I regret, I regret that. Like, crap. Yeah, if I just did that. So that's a great point. Take advantage of it.
Yeah, and you find those guys like you did, like, wow, I get this guy.
Yeah.
I'm really absorbing. So you should be there. And luckily that's at Renzo's. I knew that. And I'm like, okay, this is, this sport's going to grow, and this is not going to be what it's going to be like in years from now. So I was just every single class I would get to had to,
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just have that. Everybody should, even as we're black belts and higher, recognize, you have to really train yourself to recognize when, I should be on the mats every day. Even if I'm not going all out training, I should be listening and looking and watching, and learning.
Be present.
Sure. Be present.
Be present, because it may not be there. There might be another pandemic in a year. Who knows?
Yeah,
where
for sure.
Shut down.
Yeah, even when guys, like, I get guys that get hurt, we're always bumps and bruises, or guys hurt their knees. I'm like, put your gi on and still come into class.
Yeah.
Keep that, that habit. Don't get away from that. Because if you're gone 6, 7, 8 weeks, maybe, of just sitting at home, you're forming another habit now, and it could be harder to get back.
And you're putting on weight, and you're getting
that too. Yeah. That too. Yeah.
Like, your life's becoming easier, and now packing your bag and get to the gym's a little harder than it was 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So you become complacent in that. Yeah. I'm a big fan of that too. Just get on the mat.
Sure. And maybe getting older, like, I feel worse when I'm not rolling. Like, we took a week vacation, I didn't do any training. I feel a little more stiff because I haven't been on the mats.
Sure.
So, I like to be
Monday night for the first time in a bit, and I rolled with Renato. And I mean, it was
he's like a pit bull.
he is. I hung in there with everybody, but I was a little sore the next day. I'm like, wow, it's,
How old is Renato now?
What's that?
How old is Renato now?
55, same age.
Same age as you. Okay.
He's 54. We're basically the same age.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Renzo's 55. We're all.
You guys are all right there. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw Renato's picture the other day where he said hair, no hair. I saw that. I was laughing because I've seen him, and I've looked him up, and I always like to kind of go down the history rabbit holes of reading about people, and in general, and especially in our community now. And it just kind of struck me funny, because I was like, oh wow, he has some nice long hair, and then he had a shaved head. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. All right, very good. So I actually had that this week. I came Wednesday, a little banged up or whatever, and even my wife was like, I can't believe you're going tonight. And I was like, I have to be consistent. Like, I'm going. I was like, I'm probably not going to roll. I'll see what happens when I get there and feel.
Yeah.
But I was going to be there. Like I
Yeah.
try to use what Chad says all the time. Like just be here, whether it's just hanging out. Like if you can be here and absorb the techniques and at least talk. And so I trained and I was like, you know what? I feel really, really sore. I can't see out of my right eye really good. I'm not going to roll tonight. So,
Yeah.
but I still stayed the whole time in class.
Yeah.
And watched everybody roll. And
And it's just great emotional and mental support being with your jiu-jitsu family,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right, John Birdman. Thank you. Oh, how'd you get the Birdman name?
Oh, it's just a nickname that stuck. Jamie Cruz came up with it. He said that I ate like a bird.
Okay.
I'd eat like 6 times a day, smaller meals.
Oh,
Okay.
And he'd eat big meals, just shovel it in, but I would eat smaller meals during the day. That's how my metabolism runs.
Yeah.
So he used to draw pictures of me on the refrigerator and just make all this stuff. And for like a year or so, no one else called me that. And he was teaching at this school and he was teaching kids and I was helping them. And one day, one of the kids said, "Excuse me, Mr. Birdman," because he would call me that. But when everybody else heard that, that was it. From that day on.
It was
Yeah.
on. Yeah,
That's
And-
cool.
that is good.
It was funny because I had a guy a fighter that I trained a lot with, and he was a cop. And my brother-in-law was a cop too. So my brother-in-law ran into him one day and said, "Oh, my brother-in-law John knows you and trains with you. He's one of your instructors." And this guy's like, No, he's not. I know. I got 3 instructors and John. I never met a guy named John who taught jiu-jitsu. Okay. And so he comes back a couple of days later to the guys in the school and said, there's some guy, John, saying that he, teaches jiu-jitsu here. And they're like, "Yeah, Birdman." And he's like, "That's Birdman's name?" And they're like, "Yeah." So,
That's awesome.
Cool.
but then they said, "He was at your wedding. What did you have on the invitation?" He's like, "I just wrote Birdman."
That's awesome.
Very cool. Yeah.
I love the unique
Yeah.
names. Like,
So
and I
there's-
love
in
the way that-
jiu-jitsu, I think then everybody's got a nickname or a fight name now.
Sure.
But back then, especially the Brazilians, if you had a nickname, it was kind of a big thing. And the nickname had to have a reason, and you couldn't come up with it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't pick your
Yeah.
name. Right?
Yeah. I've told
I think a
people
lot of
that.
the fighters, especially the UFC guys, it's
Yeah.
a marketing name, kind of,
Right.
not a real nickname. Nobody calls you whatever your
Yeah.
nickname
Right.
is.
I think the Brazilians always gave it to you based on maybe some of your attributes. I always tell
Yeah.
like my younger guys, like Buchecha sounds like an awesome, cool, masculine nickname. It means cheek, I believe, or chubby or something like that. Cause he was like a chubby kid when he grew up.
Peta
like-
Chumbo, Peta
Yeah.
Pano.
Pedapano, foot, isn't it? Or
Coletta.
Bigfoot or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Coletta
wild.
is because he was like a roulette wheel. He spun
Mhm.
around.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah. That's
yeah.
funny.
All those Peta Pano is Sugarfoot.
Sugarfoot. That's it. I knew it was
Ah,
foot
okay.
something.
Yeah.
Wow.
But Pano, it's I guess that's horse Pano. So it had something to do with Kiyoshiko. You know who he is? Augusto.
I don't know if I know him.
Kiyoshiko is the Uncle Fester from the Addams Family.
Oh, really?
Oh.
That's awesome.
So yeah, there's all different nicknames you got in there, and it fits. It makes sense. It's a reason. There's a reason for that nickname.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
When the guys in the gym, it's like, yeah, he does eat like a bird. It's, yeah, that's Homem Pasajo is Portuguese for Birdman.
Very cool.
That's awesome. I love it. Like, it's just so, it's so unique. It actually, I don't know, in my opinion, it kind of makes you even closer to the people.
It
you know?
became my kind of brand in a way. It was natural. Yeah, of course, Birdman
Sure.
Jiu-Jitsu, I'd have to call it because,
Yeah.
and more people know me as Birdman than John,
Sure.
Very few people will call me John at the academy.
Because they know you. Yeah, they know that's who they know
So
you
you
are.
are.
That's
Yeah.
what
They hear
that's who
everybody
you are
else.
to
They hear
them.
the other black belts calling me Birdman. So of course, that's what they call me.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, John, thank you so much for your time, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank
you
you.
very
Thank
much,
you guys,
brother.
man. This was a blast. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you make that trip and come through Ohio,
Yeah, holler.
Please shoot me a message.
We'll find a way to make that work.
Yeah.
My wife has we have some business to do in Indiana. So
Okay.
we'll probably be driving out. So we'll probably come through.
Nice.
That'd
Very
be a good
cool.
time.
Nice. Very cool. Awesome. Very good.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, John. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Look forward to meeting you in person, teach
Absolutely.
me some things and, go from there. Appreciate it very much, man.
Thanks, brother.
Great
Yep.
times. Good times,
All right,
guys.
brother. All right. We'll see you, man.
Take care.
Later
Yeah.
on, buddy.